Hello and welcome to today's videos. We cover the two series that took place at MSI this morning. As Furia go home, LYON move on. LYON move on to play Team Secret Wales. So first, we have T1 Furia. Furia, this did not go like the LYON series. This is right now the most lopsided series of the event thus far. T1 ahead for 87% of the time. Drakes were split 7-7, and T1 took 3 Barons. T1 averaged about 2,500 gold to power play. Faker 3,324. Pays had 2 solo 2v2 kills, 29 damage share, 88 kill participation. IU had 2 solo 2v2 kills, 7, 9, 22, 28 damage share. JoJo had a solo 2v2 kill, 85 KP. Carria had 1. Doran and Gigo shared, had a solo each. We see an 800 gold lead for Doran, a 278 gold lead for Faker, a 900 gold lead for Guma. Not Guma, geez, that's just the past, man. Pays and Carria. And then Tatu, though, had a 37 gold lead. So, Game 3, Furia had moments where gold was really close, but the Drake value that T1 had offset that, which is why T1 ended up with an 87% lead percentage. Because in the end, you trade Drake for gold, the Drake stats stick just like the gold does, right? So, and you might say, well, Furia took Drakes as well. They did. What was the trade? Well, were they behind in gold by 1,000 and took an Ocean? Well, an Ocean isn't worth 1,000 gold. Or, how far are they behind? Frankly, just relative to the Drakes you're taking, right? Drakes have value. It's just the number is the number. And that does change based on composition. We use just some average number to determine the value. But regardless, this tournament should wake up Furia, should wake up CB Low. This is not Rift Rivals, America's Cup, some fucking for fun event in your backyard. And when I say backyard, I mean it was in Brazil. It was at your home arena, your home country. This is MSI. This is where the big dogs come to play. So they immediately go into the main event. And I said after the LYON series that I feel like Furia would have been better off in that lower group because I think if they were in the lower group and T1 were in the main, there is an argument to be made that Furia could have gotten out of that group. I truly believe it. They were 15th in the power rankings when this started, and TL 13th, KC 10th. It honestly, and Tatu, in my opinion, the way he's playing, he'd have been the best jungler of that group, and very well had an opportunity to get out. And with that and some more stage games under the belt, they would have been better off. But instead, we gave Brazil the treatment of you get to be in the main, and you get 6-0'd and you go home. So what does this do to Brazil's hopes and dreams of getting a second world slot? Well, let's be real, right? You have to perform when it really matters. Now, there's a lot to build on. Tatu, like I said, did very well. A lot of people giving him shit on Twitter because he shared the Hoopoo rankings or the RFT rankings, whatever the fuck it was. I don't know why he would have bothered doing that. What fans think of a player is pretty irrelevant unless you're a streamer. That doesn't help you win and lose. What a fan thinks. So, the fan ratings. Tatu did well. Like I said, he was ahead in games 1 and 2 into owner. Now, game 3, he was behind 1,000 gold. But games 1 and 2, he was ahead. So he does deserve credit for that. Also, we think about the way this series took place. We saw a Syndra bot lane for T1. It's kind of tough. But at the same time, this is when you can try that. glorified scrim on stage, because it is, unfortunately, not to say that they didn't take Furia seriously, because I'm sure they did, but also you can get a little creative. You have wiggle room. We can be real about this. You have wiggle room in a matchup like this if you're T1 to try some things. And in game 3, I mean, Furia actually put up a fight. Did T1 take their foot off the gas? Who knows? But T1 did lead for 87% of this series in terms of Drake value plus gold value. So it is what it is. We'll see what Furia do now. They tweeted out, they play the game the right way. They just need to know how to finish the game, and that showed against LYON. And it once again in game 3, it showed again today. You got to know how to finish, and they haven't been in moments like this very much. Frankly, I think it's an indictment on them a bit to think about the fact that last year I had Furia ranked as the best team in Brazil after the first split, even though they didn't make playoffs. And then split 2 they won and went to MSI and were very competitive. Very competitive. But it was in the play-ins. Gotta remember that. That was in the play-ins. That was not the main. That was against Vietnam, and it was against G2. Now, this year, Worlds, the fiasco, right? Furia do not get the job done. First split this year, they do not get the job done. They get the job done here, but then they go to the big event, end up ranked with the best teams. They're like, this is the first time we get to play T1. Yeah, it's the first time we get to play T1. This is where, let's see what happens. And in the end, it's an 87-13 split. So there's a lot of growth to be had. We need consistency in these big moments out of Furia and the entire team. Now, BLG LYON, 77-23 split. BLG probably... Game 2 is the only one that they were extremely dominant in. Game 1 and 3, they did allow LYON back into the game, especially Game 3. Game 1 was close for the majority, but LYON definitely were allowed back into Game 3 and nearly turned it around. Drakes were 7-7. BLG took 3 of 4. 2,500 gold to power play for them, 2,600 for LYON, and their 1 power play in Game 3 towards the end of the game. Unfortunately, though, Drake fight goes the way of BLG, because I've always said I'll talk about it a second. So Knight, 27 and 25. Ben had a solo kill, led the team in damage with 26% on 84 KP. Berserker, 4 solo 2v2 kills. He did great, in my opinion. 13-9-14. Saint, 2 solo kills in game 3, 32 damage share. IL, 69 KP. We see Viper with 2 solo 2v2 kills. Doklu with a solo, Shun with a solo. Topside went to BLG. 700 gold lead for Ben. Nearly 400 for Shun. 268 for Knight. Knight not crushing Saint in this matchup. And then a 700 goal lead for Berserker and Isles. That is, Viper and On in this tournament have not given me the thought that is their weak point. And coming into this event, that was the thing, right? BLG are the best performing team, but Viper's having some health issues, right? Having some wrist problems. No one's talking about that anymore, right? But is it going on? Who knows? Is he going to say it even if it was? Hopefully not, because then he'd be making an excuse. And if at that point, pull yourself out of the series. But regardless, Berserker Isles won that matchup up 700 gold. So that's significant for LYON. They played an aggressive early game, getting those 2v2 kills. It was a chaotic mess in game 1, which is what you need to do as LYON. That is how you give yourself a chance. And don't get me wrong, people say, oh, well, these players are just as good as BLGs, and in that late game team fight, it could have went anyway. Could have went anyway, huh? You're right. But are you really is it really a 50-50? I don't think it is. I think it's a 70-30. 65-35. So When all things are equal in those late game team fights, I'm going to side with the team that plays in the chaotic region and deals a shit ton of damage and just like dukes it out like a slugfest every fucking series. So if you have a Lion does not play that way. So when you get in that late game team fight and Viper's on Ezreal and he's just gliding all over the fucking place, yeah, I could have told you that was going to happen. You know, um, in the end, it is what it is. Lion get to play Team Seeker well, so that's good for them. It's a tough matchup though. These guys are no slouch, right? These guys are no slouch. But the way Berserker and Isles played today, I mean, Eddie and BA are going to have their hands full. Um, that is a serious matchup. So, you know, the 77-23, not as indicative of how this series went. Like game 2 was heavily BLG favored, and game 1 was close. BLG were ahead significantly in game 3 and allowed Lion back into the game. But still had the gold control because Drake value. So that is a thing. Just because a team has a gold lead doesn't mean that they actually are in the lead. At least for me, if you're in the lead by 1,000 gold and you gave up 3 Drakes, I mean the other team with the Drakes are ahead. That's how that works. So that is the thing. In terms of the power rankings, HLE do end up moving up over Lion now after this series. We see a little bit of movement here with TL, Koi, Nip, and Wee, but Furia do drop again. So they started this event in like 13th or 15th or whatever. They are 20th now. We'll see what happens at the end. Unfortunately for Brazil, they did not finish ahead of the LCP, LEC, or LCS, depending on where these regions fall. Because, CBL will end up averaging like a 7th place finish. And we'll see where everyone else averages out and then put it into the algorithm. So, because that's going to affect this, right? Furia getting to be 7th is going to affect things. And we got to factor in the fact they went 0-6. But regardless, I doubt Furia are going to move up a ton after this. Let's just put it that way. I don't think they're going to move up a ton in that regional hierarchy. If you're going 0-6, you just can't have that happen. Losing to Lion was not... That was their chance. That was their chance, and they blew it. So, that's it. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.